I married a Yandere, and then we had a Yandere daughter. The mother and daughter are keen on seeing me jealous. They even specifically hired a man, pretending to shower him with affection, while treating me with cold indifference. Every time they saw the hurt in my eyes, they would excitedly exchange looks and high fives in secret. I knew their tricks, but I never exposed them. I just silently played along in this absurd drama. Until this day, Jiboda and I were injured simultaneously and sent to the hospital. The doctor looked solemn. Both patients have severely comminuted fractures in their arms, but there is only one surgeon who can perform the reconstructive operation right now. Whoever goes last risks permanent disability. In my momentary daze, I heard my daughter Duoduo's young but calm voice. "Mom, let's save Uncle G first. If Dad's hand is crippled, he can never go out and hold piano recitals again. That way, he'll have more time to spend with us. Don't you want to see him all the time and have his world revolve only around us?" Liu Ruan was silent for a long time, then finally spoke, "Save Jiboda first." At that moment, I felt like I had been struck by lightning. I never expected that my constant forbearance would only lead to them escalating their behavior. I slowly closed my eyes, my last thought being, when I wake up, I don't want either of them anymore. When I woke up, the doctor told me the surgery had been delayed too long. My hand could never fully recover, and my piano career was completely over. Meanwhile, to maintain their facade, Liu Ruyan and Duoduo kept caring for Jiboda and never once came to see me. I didn't argue or fuss. I stayed quietly in the hospital for a few days. The first thing I did when I was discharged and returned home was to contact a lawyer and draft a divorce agreement. Then I started packing. I typed in my birthday password and opened the study room that the mother and daughter never allowed me to enter. What greeted my eyes was a room full of my photos on the walls, on the desk, even locked in the cabinet. All were pictures of me. Everyone said the Liu mother and daughter never loved me. Only I knew that they loved me to the point of being sick. My grandfather and Liu Ruyan's grandfather were old friends. After my parents passed away, I was taken in by the Liu family. When I first met Liu Ruyan, the girl stood on the stairs, looking down at me, her eyes as cold as ice. I fell in love with her at first sight and pursued her for years, yet she never gave me a second glance. Even after marrying her at the request of Grandpa Liu, she remained distant and indifferent to me. It wasn't until one day when I accidentally stumbled into this study that I discovered her deeply hidden secret. This woman, who was always cold to me, had been in love with me for a long time. Cold during the day, she would gaze at me alone in the dead of night, obsessively kissing my photos. And our daughter, Duoduo, at 5 years old, was a complete copy of her mother. She pretended to be uninterested in me on the surface, but secretly collected every single strand of my hair. They loved me, but they pathologically craved all of my attention. For this, they deliberately acted cold towards me, and even hired Jiboda just to see me jealous, to see me hurt, and then secretly enjoy it. I knew the truth, but never exposed them. I thought that with enough patience, I could eventually cure their pathology. It wasn't until the words "say Jiboda first" in the hospital that I was completely sobered. Some love is destined to be a twisted cage. I threw all my luggage into the trash, including the wedding ring I had worn for 5 years. Just as I finished, a Bugatti slowly drove into the courtyard. Liu Ruyan and Duoduo had picked up Jiboda and brought him home. After getting out of the car, the mother and daughter ignored me as always. Duoduo put on a stern face and instructed the servant. "Uncle G just got discharged and hasn't fully recovered. He'll be staying here for a while. Clean up the best guest room and decorate it to the standard of a male host." While saying this, the mother and daughter kept secretly glancing my way, trying to catch an expression of jealousy or sadness on my face. In the past, my heart would truly have been twisted in pain, but now I would no longer cry for them, not seeing the expected reaction. The mother and daughter's expression subtly darkened, but they only assumed their acting wasn't convincing enough. They quickly helped Jiboda into the villa and continued their act. Jiboda truly acted as if he were the master of the house. At one point, he criticized the white roses outside the window. "The flowers are nice, but they don't match the villa. Red roses would be better." Liu Ruyan immediately had the white roses I had personally planted dug up and replaced them with glaring red ones. Another time, he complained that the curtains were too dark. Without a word, the mother and daughter remodeled the house I had personally decorated. until it was unrecognizable. I remained unmoved throughout. Jiboda seemed a bit uneasy. I've only been staying a few days and changed so much. Will Mr. Yi get angry? Liu Ruyan said flatly. No need to care about his thoughts. At dinner, the servants served the meal. The mother and daughter circled around Jiboda. Liu Ruyan peeled shrimp for him, and Duo spooned soup for him, as if I were invisible. I was distracted. Taking a mouthful of fish soup, I was suddenly choked by a large fish bone. My face instantly changed color, and I struggled to breathe, my fingers clawing at my throat. Seeing this, the mother and daughter immediately panicked, subconsciously about to rush over. But then, Jiboda suddenly clutched his own throat, his face filled with pain. I'm choking on a bone too. The mother and daughter froze, their eyes struggling. In the end, they chose to continue the act. Liu Ruyan helped Jiboda cough up the bone, and Duo called the servant to find the private doctor. My vision blurred. I tried everything to swallow the fish bone, but the sharp barb tore my throat. A mouthful of blood sprayed out, and I completely passed out. When I woke up again, I heard Liu Ruyan and Duo facing the servants, sternly scolding them. Who made that fish soup? You almost killed the master! All of you get out! I forced myself to sit up, my voice hoarse. There's no need to fire them. The mother and daughter snapped their heads around. I looked at the undisguised coldness in their eyes. The ones who hurt me the most are those who refuse to help. What responsibility can the servants bear? Liu Ruyan's face instantly hardened. You have no right to speak here. We're not doing this for you. We're doing it for Boda. I closed my eyes, weary. How long are you going to keep up the act? What did you say? The mother and daughter frowned, seemingly not hearing me clearly. I opened my mouth, about to speak, when the butler rushed in suddenly. Madam, Mr. Ji is awake and calling for you. Liu Ruyan and Duo exchanged a look and turned away without hesitation. You rest well. We're going to take care of Boda. They left without a backward glance, heading straight for Jiboda's room. For the next few days, the mother and daughter became even more excessively kind to Jiboda. Liu Ruyan personally fed him medicine, and Duo stayed with him, chatting every step of the way. I knew they were putting on a show for me, but I no longer cared. Until Jiboda's birthday banquet, the Liu villa was lavishly decorated. Crystal lamps refracted brilliant light, and champagne towers were stacked high. Guests praised the Liu family's high regard for Jiboda. Mr. Liu is really attentive to Mr. Ji. Indeed. Mr. Yi has been in the Liu family for so many years, and Mrs. Liu never held a birthday banquet for him. Even his own daughter only circles around Jiboda. Mr. Yi is a true failure. The chatter of the crowd reached my ears. I gave a self-mocking smile. Yes, I am a failure. Who would have thought that this mother and daughter, who loved me so desperately, had to express it this way? In the center of the banquet hall, Jiboda, wearing a bespoke suit, was flanked by Liu Ruyan and Duo like a true host. They presented him with expensive gifts and watched him blow out candles and make a wish. But their eyes constantly darted towards me, trying to catch a hint of jealousy or sadness on my face. Yet I sat quietly in the corner, my expression indifferent, as if none of this concerned me. The mother and daughter's faces grew increasingly dark. Mr. Ye, Jiboda suddenly spoke, his voice gentle. What gift did you prepare for me? I looked up. I didn't prepare anything. Jiboda wasn't offended, but said with a hint of petulance, How can it be my birthday without a gift? He feigned grievance. Do you not welcome me staying here? As he spoke, his gaze fell on the jade pendant around my neck, and his eyes lit up. This jade pendant is so beautiful. Why don't you give it to me as a birthday present? I frowned, subconsciously shielding the pendant. No. Jiboda's eyes instantly reddened, and he looked to the mother and daughter for help. Take it off. Liu Ruyan's voice was ice cold. Duo was even more eager to chime in. It's just a broken jade pendant. Uncle Ji likes it, so just give it to him. Why be so stingy? This is not an ordinary jade pendant. My voice began to tremble. Liu Ruyan stepped forward and yanked the chain, leaving a red mark on my neck. The stinging pain was acute. You can't even afford to give up a jade pendant? We can just buy a similar one later. A similar one won't do. My voice shook. This is my grandfather's relic. Liu Ruyan froze for a moment, but quickly regained her cold composure. The dead cannot be brought back. Distance yourself from these old items, and you'll get over it sooner. As she handed the pendant to Jiboda, I clearly saw her fingertips slightly trembling. Duo backed her up. Exactly, Dad is too fixated. I completely broke down. They could act to this extent? Was their love just seeing me suffer? I was about to rush forward to grab it, but Jiboda accidentally slipped, and the jade pendant crashed heavily to the ground, shattering into several pieces. My pupils constricted. I scrambled to crouch down and pick them up. What are you doing? Jiboda feigned panic. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I'll help you fix it. Get lost. I shoved him away, tremblingly gathering the fragments into my palm. The sharp edges of the broken jade dug deep into my palm, but it was less painful than the ache in my heart. I turned to go back to my room, but Liu Ruyan stopped me. What kind of attitude is that? It's just a jade pendant. If it's broken, it's broken. How could you push Boda? I didn't want to say another word to them. I walked around them and headed straight upstairs. In the room, I tried to mend the jade pendant, but no matter how I pieced it together, the cracks were clearly visible, just like my relationship with the Liu mother and daughter. It could never be restored. I took a deep breath and decided to go out and find a professional restorer. As soon as I opened the door, Jiboda was standing outside, a victorious smile playing on his lips. Now you know my importance, right? Even the relic you treasure, as long as I say the word, they still snatch it and give it to me. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. If you know what's good for you, step aside quickly. I looked at his smug appearance and suddenly found it ridiculous. Did Liao Ruyan and Duo know that the man they hired to act was becoming this greedy? I looked at him coldly. I think you're the one who can't see your own place. Jiboda's face changed drastically. What do you mean? Do you know something? I was too tired to argue. I pushed him aside and tried to leave. Jiboda suddenly grabbed my wrist. Stop! Explain yourself clearly! Let go! I shook him off. I clearly didn't use much force, yet Jiboda acted as if he had been violently pushed, and he fell backward. With a scream, Jiboda tumbled down the stairs. The loud noise drew the attention of Liu Ruyan and Duo. They rushed over. Liu Ruyan immediately picked up the sprawled Jiboda. What happened? Jiboda's eyes were red, his voice choked. I just wanted to apologize about the jade pendant. But he not only rejected my apology, but also cursed at me and told me to get out. He sobbed, saying he didn't want to see me, and didn't want you two to go near me. Hearing this, a flash of delight crossed the mother and daughter's eyes, and their lips unconsciously curved upward, though they quickly suppressed it and feigned seriousness. Liu Ruyan told the servant to help Jiboda go for a checkup, then turned to me, speaking coldly. These past few days you've been quiet. I thought you finally learned to be generous. Turns out, it was all an act. Since you dared to push Boda, you must pay the price. She raised her hand and summoned the bodyguards. Drag him to the 3rd floor and throw him down. These words struck me like a heavy hammer. My eyes widened and my voice trembled. Liu Ruyan, are you crazy? I didn't push him, he fell himself. The 3rd floor isn't that high, she said indifferently. It's just to let you experience Boda's pain so you won't make the mistake again. The bodyguards seized my arms. I struggled desperately, but to no avail. As I was being dragged up to the 3rd floor, I desperately cried out, Liu Ruyan, Duo, you will regret this. Bang! As my body slammed heavily onto the marble floor of the courtyard, I heard the crisp sound of my bones breaking. Excruciating pain instantly swept through my whole body. Blood oozed from the corner of my mouth, and my vision began to blur. In a haze, I saw Liu Ruyan and Duo standing not far away. In the lamplight, a repressed smile played on the mother and daughter's lips. Mom, Duo whispered. Dad is getting jealous for us again. His eyes are sparkling. Dad really loves us so much. I'm so happy. Liu Ruyan stroked her head and said softly, Mom is happy too. Listening to their conversation, my heart felt like it had been torn in half. My pain, their harm, in their eyes, was merely a game to prove my love. Darkness washed over me like a tide. I finally couldn't hold on and completely lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I was greeted by the harsh white light of a hospital room. My whole body ached as if it had been crushed, pain seeping from the seams of my bones. A nurse was changing my dressing. Seeing me open my eyes, she quickly came over. You're awake. How do you feel? I moved my lips with difficulty, my throat dry as if it had been burned. Who brought me here? It was a mother and daughter, the nurse replied while adjusting the IV drip, her eyes filled with admiration. They must be your wife and daughter, right? They're so beautiful. She continued to ramble. They were terribly anxious when they brought you in. They paid for an entire floor to be reserved and stayed by your bedside all night. My fingertips slightly trembled. My heart felt gripped by an invisible hand. It's the same old routine. They clearly worry to death in secret, but on the surface, they insist on acting indifferent. It's laughable, but it's strange, the nurse continued. The doctor just said you were about to wake up and they rushed off to another patient's room. Should I call them to come over? I closed my eyes and shook my head wearily. No need. I know their tricks all too well. They must have gone to Jibota's room to continue their performance. For the next few days, I took care of myself and quietly recovered. On the day of my discharge, the lawyer delivered the finalized divorce agreement. I reviewed it carefully, confirmed it was correct, and signed my name. Just after completing the discharge procedures, I ran into Liu Ruyan and Duo in the hospital corridor. They were helping Jibota get discharged. The mother and daughter flanked him. Liu Ruyan even personally carried his bag, and Duo thoughtfully held his jacket. I stood there, my fingers tightening around the divorce agreement. I took a deep breath, walked up, and handed the agreement to Liu Ruyan. Sign this, Liu Ruyan frowned. What is this? Jibota, at her side, immediately said gently, it's probably for the discharge procedures and requires a family member's signature. He tugged on Liu Ruyan's sleeve, speaking with a touch of petulance. Ruyan, sign it. My head is a bit dizzy, and I want to go home and rest early. Duo also tilted her small face, feigning worry. Mom, please sign quickly. Uncle G isn't feeling well. Liu Ruyan took the pen. Without even looking at the contents, she signed her name. Then, she turned and left with Duo and Jibota, not giving me a single extra look. I stood there, my heart feeling hollowed out, yet strangely, it no longer hurt. I took out my phone and asked the lawyer, both parties have signed. When can I get the divorce certificate? The lawyer replied, after the 1-month cooling off period is over. I nodded, put the agreement in my bag, and turned to leave. Just as I stepped out of the hospital entrance, a stretch Rolls-Royce slowly pulled up in front of me. The window rolled down and Jibota poked his head out. Mr. Ye, since we ran into each other, why don't we go back together? I said coldly, no need. From the back seat came 2 inaudible coughs. Liu Ruyan and Duo both frowned, their gaze uncontrollably drifting towards me. Jibota immediately got out of the car, grabbed my hand. Don't hold a grudge over what happened last time. Although you pushed me, you've also been punished. Let's put this behind us. He spoke and forcibly pulled me into the car. I knew this must have been the mother and daughter's idea. They wanted to be with me but couldn't say it directly, so they had to make Jibota do it. It was both ironic and pathetic. The car started, and the compartment was filled with suffocating silence. Liu Ruyan personally poured Jibota a cup of warm water, and Duo attentively put a jacket over him. The mother and daughter's actions were fluid, yet their eyes kept glancing over at me as if anticipating they could catch a hint of jealousy or sadness on my face. But I just silently stared out the window, my eyes lifeless. The window glass reflected my pale face and the mother and daughter's restless eyes. Suddenly, bang! There was a loud noise and the car body vibrated violently. My head slammed hard against the front seat back and my vision instantly went black. In that hazy moment, I distinctly saw Liu Ruyan and Duo both lunging toward me, their arms already halfway extended. But the moment our eyes met, they abruptly changed direction, firmly shielding Jibota in their embrace. My heart was completely cold. The driver quickly apologized. Liu Ruyan and Duo nervously checked Jibota for injuries. Jibota said gently, I'm fine thanks to you two protecting me. Then, he suddenly exclaimed, oh dear, Mr. Yi is seriously injured. Only then did the mother and daughter turn to look at me. My forehead was bleeding and my arm had several bloody scratches from the shattered glass. I was completely disheveled. The driver quickly asked if we should go back to the hospital. Liu Ruyan's eyes struggled, but she finally said coldly, no need, Boda needs to rest. She looked at me, her tone flat. Just go back and apply some medicine yourself. Duo also agreed, yes, Dad can handle it himself. I didn't say anything, just slowly closed my eyes. I was too tired. So tired that I couldn't even feel the pain anymore. Back at the villa, I endured the pain and applied the medicine myself. The moment the alcohol seeped into the wound, my fingertips trembled from the sting, but I didn't shed a single tear. For the next few days, I quietly rested in my room, recovering. Until this day, when I went out to take out the trash. Just as I threw the garbage in, I felt a sharp pain in the back of my neck. In the last second before I passed out, I clearly saw the face of my attacker. It was one of Liu Ruyan's enemies. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself in an abandoned factory. I was tightly bound with thick hemp ropes and couldn't move. What made my blood run cold was that a bomb was strapped to my waist, with a countdown timer displaying 3 minutes. Jibota was also tied to a pillar opposite me, his meticulously groomed face deathly pale. Yefan, what's going on? I didn't answer, lowering my head to try and struggle free from the ropes. The ropes were tied too tightly. After a few tries, my wrists were only rubbed raw and sore. The countdown ticked down, second by second, 2 minutes 45 seconds. Just then, the factory door was violently kicked open with a bang. Blinding sunlight poured in. I squinted and saw 2 familiar figures rushing in, Liu Ruyan and Duo. The mother and daughter looked tense, their eyes quickly searching the factory until they locked onto me. Liu Ruyan's pupils constricted abruptly. She almost subconsciously started running towards me. Ruyan! Duo! Jibota suddenly screamed, his voice trembling. I'm so scared. The mother and daughter's footsteps abruptly halted. Liu Ruyan frowned, her eyes struggling. Duo also clenched her small fists, staring intently at me, seemingly trying hard to restrain something. Finally, Liu Ruyan closed her eyes, then turned and walked toward Jibota. We'll save Bota first, she said in a low voice, as if trying to convince herself. Yifan, wait a little longer. My heart felt squeezed by an invisible hand, the pain almost suffocating me. 0 minutes 30 seconds. I watched Liu Ruyan and Duo quickly untie Jibota and help him walk out. Jibota leaned against Liu Ruyan, looked back at me, and a smile of victory curved on his lips. I felt completely cold. 0 minutes 20 seconds. They really left. At this life and death moment, they still chose to act. I clenched my teeth and struggled desperately. The rope finally loosened a bit. Enduring the sharp pain, I slowly pulled my wrist out of the loop. My skin was rubbed raw and bloody, but I didn't care. 0 minutes, 3 seconds. I finally broke free and stumbled toward the outside. But just a few steps out, a deafening explosion erupted behind me. A massive shockwave blasted me forward. I slammed heavily onto the ground, my back burning with pain, my ears ringing, and my vision blurred. In a daze, I saw Liu Ruyan and Duo returning, rushing toward me like mad. Liu Ruyan's eyes were bloodshot, her voice hoarse. Yefan! Duo also cried out, Dad! I wanted to laugh, but I didn't even have the strength to twitch the corner of my mouth. I slowly closed my eyes and sank into darkness. When I woke up again, I was lying in a hospital bed, my whole body aching as if it had been crushed. The nurse saw me wake up and quickly held me down. Don't move, you just had a kidney transplant and can't move around. A kidney transplant? My voice was hoarse. Yes, you were injured by the bomb and your kidney ruptured. Luckily, your wife donated her kidney to you without hesitation. Your daughter even gave you 800 cc of blood. My fingertips slightly trembled. The nurse continued. You really have a good wife and daughter. They not only reserved the entire floor for your recovery, but also took turns watching over you for 3 days and 3 nights. I closed my eyes, my heart stinging. They would rather donate a kidney and blood and watch over me than say, I love you. But thankfully, I no longer needed this kind of love. During my hospital stay, Liu Ruyan and Duo never officially came to see me. But strangely, I always felt that someone was sneaking into my room in the middle of the night. Sometimes, it was a cool fingertip gently stroking my face. Sometimes, it was warm lips pressed against mine. Once, I even heard someone whispering in my ear, My delicate baby, get well soon. That night, I felt someone approach again. Warm breath sprayed against my neck and soft lips gently pressed against my earlobe. I suddenly opened my eyes. Liu Ruyan's face was inches away. Our eyes met, and the panic in her eyes flashed and was gone. "What are you doing?" I asked coldly. Liu Ruyan's expression stiffened. The next second, she raised her hand and delivered a sharp slap to the side of my neck. My vision went black, and I passed out again. A few days later, Liu Ruyan finally came to see me officially with Duo. "How is your injury?" Liu Ruyan stood at the foot of the bed, her voice as cold as if she were asking a stranger. My gaze fell on her slightly trembling fingertips, and I suddenly laughed. "Have you been here these past few days?" Liu Ruyan's pupils contracted sharply, and her Adam's apple bobbed. She quickly turned her face away, her voice cold. "No, we've been taking care of Boda. We only came to pick up some medicine and happened to check on you." She finished speaking and turned to leave, her back rigid as if nailed to a board. Duo, however, stood still, her small hand tightly gripping her mother's coat, her eyes red like a rabbit's. "Liu Ruyan, Duo." I suddenly called out to them. The mother and daughter simultaneously turned back, their synchronized movement as if rehearsed 1,000 times. I looked at their similar faces, Liu Ruyan's taut jawline, Duo's reddened eyes. I suddenly felt utterly exhausted, like I had trekked across countless mountains, only to find the finish line had long vanished. I opened my mouth, wanting to say that I knew they secretly came to the ward every night and stayed until dawn. I wanted to say that I could smell the unique scent of sandalwood on Liu Ruyan. I wanted to say that I could hear Duo's suppressed crying from the end of the hallway. But in the end, I just closed my eyes wearily. Never mind. I'm tired. I was too tired to even expose this absurd drama. Since they liked using hurt to prove love so much, let them act it out to their heart's content. After all, I was about to make my final exit. The day I was discharged from the hospital happened to be the anniversary of my grandfather's death. As I walked out of the hospital gate, I saw Liu Ruyan's car parked by the roadside. The window rolled down, and Duo leaned out. "It's great-grandpa's anniversary today. Mom and I are going with you." I opened the car door and saw Boda's smug, smiling face in the back seat. My fingers dug into the flower bouquet's wrapping paper, and I silently got into the car. In the cemetery, a cold wind whistled. A staff member approached respectfully. "Mr. Ye, the lease for Grandpa Ming's plot needs to be renewed." Liu Ruyan immediately took out her card. "I'll go take care of it." After she and Duo left, Boda's face immediately changed. "Your grandpa's been dead for so many years, and you still come to pay respects. What a waste of time," he sneered. "An old dead man doesn't deserve such a good burial plot." I suddenly looked up, my eyes bloodshot. "Say that again." "Was I wrong?" Boda smiled maliciously. "It's lucky this old bastard died early. Otherwise, if he saw his own grandson acting so contemptibly, clinging shamelessly to a woman who doesn't love him, he'd probably be resurrected by pure anger." Slap! The crisp sound of the slap echoed through the cemetery. Boda staggered backward, his head hitting the tombstone hard. Blood instantly flowed down his carefully styled hair. "Yafan!" Liu Ruyan and Duo rushed back, drawn by the sound, and saw the whole scene. Boda immediately clutched his head, his eyes red with tears. "Ruyan, Mr. Ye is angry. You've been taking care of me all these days, even bringing me to visit his grandfather. He's jealous, so he hit me. It's my fault for not knowing my place. His anger is understandable." The mother and daughter exchanged glances, a flicker of secret pleasure in their eyes. But quickly, Liu Ruyan's expression turned grim. She looked at me, her gaze as cold as fractured ice. "Yafan, what are you doing now?" Duo also pulled a face, a mirror image of her mother's, but her voice held a maturity beyond her years. "Dad, you hurt Uncle G. You must be punished." "Do it," Liu Ruyan ordered the bodyguard with a raised hand. "Dig up the urn." My pupils suddenly constricted. The blood in my body seemed to instantly freeze. "Liu Ruyan, you..." The bodyguard's actions were surprisingly fast. The sound of the shovel digging into the earth was piercingly loud in the silent cemetery. I rushed forward like a madman, but Liu Ruyan grabbed my wrist tightly. The moment the urn was opened, a cold wind howled, swirling the gray-white dust, which scattered into the air. What are you doing? Liu Ruyan's face instantly changed, her voice filled with unprecedented panic. Who told you to scatter him? The bodyguard was stunned. The shovel clanged as it hit the ground. Didn't Madam mean to scatter the ashes, to completely destroy them? Time seemed to stand still at that moment. Liu Ruyan and Duo froze in place. A look of identical shock and regret appeared on their similar faces. I watched the ashes flying everywhere. In a haze, I seemed to see Grandpa's kind, smiling face dissipating in the wind. The Grandpa who would carry me on his shoulder to pick peaches, the Grandpa who was the first to stand up for me when I was wronged, the Grandpa who still worried about my happiness on his deathbed, he had now turned into a wisp of smoke between heaven and earth. My heart was fiercely gripped by an invisible hand. The pain so suffocating it nearly killed me. A coppery taste rose in my throat, and I suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, my vision going dark as I collapsed in front of the cold tombstone. In a daze, I felt myself floating in endless darkness. The deliberately lowered voices of the mother and daughter came to my ears, as if from a distance. Mom, did we go too far? Duo's voice was clearly tearful. We made Dad so sad that he coughed up blood. Then, a pair of warm, large hands carefully held mine. Liu Ruyan's voice was shaking badly. Yifan, I'm sorry. Wake up. I didn't mean it. I didn't intend to scatter the ashes. Dad, Duo sobbed, her small hand gently stroking my cheek. We just wanted to make you jealous. We love you. Tears seeped from the corners of my eyes, silently soaking the pillowcase. They needed my pain to prove I cared, needed my tears to confirm my love. Behind every hurt there was their twisted satisfaction. So this was their love. Demanding I hurt, demanding I cry, demanding I wish for death just to prove my care. But I didn't want this kind of love. When I woke up at home, the entire villa was empty. Only the servants were busy downstairs. I opened my phone to check the time, but the screen was filled with news of Liu Ruyan and Duo taking Jiboda in and out of high-end restaurants and luxury stores. In every photo, Liu Ruyan had her arm around Jiboda's waist, Duo held his hand, and the three smiled like a real family. I expressionlessly scrolled past the news, my gaze landing on the calendar. The date circled in red. Only 3 days left in the divorce cooling-off period. I was finally going to be free. On the day of the Liu Group's anniversary celebration, I had to attend as a nominal male host. The ballroom was splendid, filled with socializing. Jiboda, in a bespoke suit, held Liu Ruyan's arm, accepting compliments like a real male host. Mr. Liu truly dotes on Mr. G. Yes, and I hear the little princess is very fond of him too. I stood in the corner, quietly drinking, as if none of this concerned me. Halfway through the banquet, the host announced the lottery drawing. The grand prize was the opportunity to make one wish to Mrs. Liu and the young Miss Liu, and they would definitely grant it, no matter what. The whole room buzzed, everyone excitedly waiting for the result. Congratulations to Mr. Jiboda for winning the grand prize. Jiboda covered his mouth in surprise and walked onto the stage to the applause of the crowd. He took the microphone and looked at Liu Ruyan gently. My wish is to hear Duo call me Dad. The air instantly froze. Everyone's eyes flickered back and forth between me and Jiboda. Duo stood on the stage, her small face tightly composed. She looked in my direction, a flicker of anticipation and apprehension in her eyes. But when she saw my expressionless face, the corners of her mouth slightly drooped. Dad! She suddenly raised a bright smile, her voice clear and loud. Then she stood on her tiptoes and kissed Jiboda's cheek. The banquet hall erupted in warm applause and cheering. The fingers clutching my wine glass were slightly white. In a trance, I recalled the scene when Duo first called me Dad. She had just learned to talk, and that soft, sweet dad made me cry all night. The music for the opening dance started. Liu Ruyan walked straight to Jiboda and took his hand. Whispers arose around us. Mrs. Liu didn't ask Mr. Yi to dance the opening dance this year. It seems Mr. G is really going to take his place. Definitely. Look, even the little princess calls him Dad. I sat in the corner, drowning myself in glass after glass of wine. The alcohol burned my stomach but couldn't warm my icy heart. I don't know how much I drank, but my vision began to blur. In a daze, a waiter came over to help me. Sir, you've had too much. I'll take you upstairs to rest. I was supported to the top floor suite and collapsed onto the bed. The waiter thoughtfully took off my shoes and closed the door as he left. When the door was pushed open, I was already drifting in a drunken stupor. Jiboda walked in, his leather shoes clicking, and looked down at me. "Your daughter called me, Dad. How does that make you feel?" I kept my eyes closed, my voice hoarse. "No feeling," Jiboda sneered. "You can really hold it in. Your heart must be bleeding, right?" He leaned down and whispered in my ear. "But you don't have to worry. I took your daughter. Next, I'll give you a surprise, too." I had a bad premonition. I tried with all my might to shake off the drunkenness and open my eyes. The next second, I saw a strange woman push the door open and enter. Jiboda quickly backed out and locked the door. "Get out!" I struggled to retreat, but the alcohol made my limbs weak. The woman smiled wickedly and lunged at me, tearing at my clothes. "Stop pretending, Mr. Yi. Your wife doesn't even care about you. Why pretend?" I fought back desperately, my nails savagely scratching the woman's face. The instant she cried out in pain, I fumbled for my phone and shakily dialed Liu Ruyan's number. To call the police? It was too late. I could only call Liu Ruyan. She was in this very hotel. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, the phone was never answered. 10 times, 20 times. By the 28th call, there was still only a cold, busy signal. I completely despaired. Seeing my shirt about to be torn, I suddenly grabbed the vase on the table and smashed it hard on the woman's head, seizing the moment she fell to the floor, howling. I staggered to the window and jumped without hesitation. I fell into the bushes below, my knees and arms covered in countless bloody scratches from the branches. But I ignored the pain, got up and ran forward until a familiar voice at the corner made me stop dead. Duo's voice came clearly. "Mom, Dad called so many times and you didn't answer. What if something happened to him?" Liu Ruyan stared at her phone screen, her eyes struggling. Finally, she said coldly, "If I answered him, he'd know we care about him." Duo nodded. "Mom is right. Dad's love for us isn't strong enough. He only called 28 times. She counted on her fingers. "He needs to call at least 99 times to prove he truly loves us." I hid around the corner, listening to their conversation. My heart felt torn to pieces. They were still testing my love. But I had no love left for them. I limped out of the hotel, hailed a taxi home. I found the first aid kit, hastily treated my wounds, and then began packing. The divorce cooling off period would end tomorrow. I could finally leave this hell completely. I finished packing the last suitcase and was about to pour a glass of water when a news flash on the TV hit me like lightning. Genius pianist Jiboda wins the International Piano Competition Gold Award with his original composition, Fan Gay. Brother Fan. The glass in my hand crashed and shattered into pieces. On the screen, Jiboda stood on the podium, smiling gently as he was interviewed. "I spent 3 years composing this piece. The inspiration came from my feelings about life and love." I trembled all over. That was my piece. My original composition, which I personally wrote and hadn't had time to publish. How did it become Jiboda's? The sound of the door opening interrupted my thoughts. Liu Ruyan, with Duo and Jiboda, walked in. The 3 were laughing and talking like a happy family of 3. "What is this?" I pointed at the TV, my voice shaking uncontrollably. "Give me an explanation." Liu Ruyan didn't even glance at it, saying dismissively, "No need to explain. I gave it to him because he liked it." "That is my original work." I practically spat the words through clenched teeth. "You gave it, so it's given." Liu Ruyan frowned impatiently. "Anyway, your hand is crippled now. Just stay home and be a good husband and father from now on." The sentence was like a sharp knife, piercing deeply into my heart. Yes, my hand was crippled. That day in the hospital, they chose to save Jiboda without hesitation, permanently taking away my ability to play the piano. All because they said that only if my hand was crippled would I love them wholeheartedly. So this was their love, to strip away my career, steal my creation, break my wings, all just to keep me forever trapped in this gilded cage. I bit my lip hard until I tasted blood. Liu Ruyan, Duo, you will regret this. Those who betray true feelings will swallow 10,000 needles. Liu Ruyan's face changed drastically. "What do you mean?" I didn't answer. I turned and went back to the room, slamming the door shut. Jibota's gentle voice came from outside the door. Ruyan, Duo, we're going to the award ceremony tomorrow. Liu Ruyan threw him away with a push. Her eyes were chillingly cold. He's not here, so why are you still pretending? The act is over, so don't stand here being an eyesore. I'm warning you. Duo's voice was cold, unlike a child's. If you make Dad unhappy, we can take back everything we gave you. Jibota's face turned pale. He assented nervously, but a sinister glint flashed in his eyes. Early the next morning, when I went downstairs, Liu Ruyan and Duo immediately sat down next to Jibota. We're taking Bota to the award ceremony today. You stay at home. Don't cause trouble. I nodded calmly. Don't worry, I won't cause trouble anymore. The sentence was spoken lightly, yet it inexplicably unsettled Liu Ruyan. She subconsciously wanted to say something, but Jibota took her arm. Ruyan, we should leave. After they left, I stood in the middle of the empty living room and took a deep breath. I took out the documents I had prepared long ago and headed straight for the Bureau of Civil Affairs. When the clerk at the Bureau of Civil Affairs handed me the divorce certificate, I didn't even look at it again. Returning to that former house, I placed the divorce certificate on the coffee table in the living room. Before leaving, I took one last look around the villa. My gaze swept over the dust-covered piano, the family photo hanging on the wall, the crooked drawings Duo made when she was little by the entrance. Then, I turned and walked away, never looking back. Backstage at the awards ceremony, Jibota was adjusting his tie in front of the mirror. The diamond cufflinks sparkled brilliantly under the light. Liu Ruyan stood next to him, her expression cold, but her usually icy gaze couldn't help but drift toward the door, carrying anticipation. Mom, do you think Dad will come? Duo suddenly spoke, asking the question in Liu Ruyan's heart. Jibota paused in adjusting his tie. He walked over, his leather shoes clicking. Mr. Yi seemed very upset this morning, so he'll probably still come. That way, Mrs. Liao and Little Miss Liao can see him jealous again. Though he said this, Liao Ruyan felt an increasing sense of unease for some reason. She couldn't help but take out her phone and dial my number, only to hear the cold prompt. Sorry, the number you have dialed is switched off. My phone was off? Why? Don't call anymore, an attendant came over and said respectfully. The award ceremony is about to start. Please take your seats. Liu Ruyan frowned slightly, finally putting away her phone. While Jibota was on the podium, delivering his emotional acceptance speech, Liu Ruyan was completely distracted. My morning's abnormality made her feel inexplicably irritated, as if something important was slipping through her fingers. Mom, Dad didn't come to cause trouble out of jealousy. It's boring. I want to go home, Duo whispered suddenly. Liu Ruyan looked down at her daughter, noticing a rare anxiety on her usually calm little face. She nodded. Without waiting for Jibota to step down, she stood up, pulling Duo with her. Ruyan! Duo, where are you going? Jibota cried out in surprise from the stage, drawing attention from the whole audience. Liu Ruyan walked out quickly without looking back. Duo hurried to keep up with her mother's pace. The black Rolls-Royce sped through the night. Liu Ruyan's fingertips unconsciously drummed on her knee. Duo kept her lips tightly pressed. When the car lights illuminated the gate of the Liu villa, Liu Ruyan's heart sank. The entire house was pitch black, not a single light on. This had never happened before. I always left a light on for them to come home. Liu Ruyan practically dashed into the house. In the empty living room, the dark green little booklet on the coffee table was particularly jarring. This is the divorce certificate. What does this mean? Yefen divorced her? She froze in place, her fingers trembling slightly as she picked up the divorce certificate. Mom! Duo's voice was tearful. Come quickly! Dad's things are all gone. Liu Ruyan suddenly turned and rushed up to the second floor. The door to the master bedroom was wide open. The entire room was so clean, it was as if I had never been there. A sharp pain suddenly shot through Liu Ruyan's chest. She leaned against the wall to barely remain standing. The pain was excruciating, like someone had literally dug out a piece of flesh from her body. How could this happen? She murmured to herself. How could he divorce me and leave? Mom, it's all your fault. Duo suddenly rushed in, punching her mother's leg hard with her small fist. You were the one who wanted to test Dad! Now he doesn't want us anymore. What do we do? I want Dad! I want Dad! Liu Ruyan looked down at her daughter's tear-streaked face. For the first time, she didn't know how to respond. Ruyan? Jibota's voice came from the doorway. He rushed back, panting, his tuxedo tails dragging. Why did you suddenly leave? What happened? Liu Ruyan slowly turned her head, her eyes terrifyingly sinister. Jibota was startled by her gaze and took a step back, forcing a smile. Did Mr. Yi throw another tantrum? He's always like this. Always. Who gave you permission to judge him? Liu Ruyan's voice was low and menacing. Jibota's face turned ashen. Mom, make him leave, Duo suddenly screamed. It's all because we hired him that Dad left. Liu Ruyan's gaze turned completely cold. She pressed the intercom button. Someone, escort Mr. G out. What? Jibota stared wide-eyed in disbelief. Ruyan, you can't do this. We agreed. 2 bodyguards quickly appeared at the door, grabbing his arms. Pack his things and throw them out too. Liu Ruyan didn't even look at him. From now on, he is not allowed to step inside the Liu residence. Mrs. Liu, what did I do wrong? Jibota struggled, screaming. I've been cooperating with your act all this time. Take him out. The bodyguards quickly covered Jibota's mouth and dragged him downstairs. Duo rushed to the window, watching Jibota being shamefully stuffed into a car and driven away, a twisted sense of satisfaction on her small face. Mom, let's go find Dad. She turned and tugged on her mother's coat, tears streaming down her face. Let's apologize and tell him we love him. Dad will definitely forgive us. Liu Ruyan mechanically pulled out her phone and dialed her assistant's number. Now, immediately, find Yefan's whereabouts. Use all connections, all resources, regardless of the cost. Hanging up the phone, Liu Ruyan slowly crouched down and hugged her sobbing daughter. Her voice was hoarse. We will find him. We definitely will. Outside the window, the banished Jibota stood outside the Liu mansion gate. The tears in his eyes had long dried up, replaced by hatred. He stared fiercely at the brightly lit villa, his fingernails digging deep into his palms. In the hotel suite, the curtains were tightly drawn. I sat cross-legged on the bed, the light from my laptop illuminating my pale face. On the screen was the folder I had just organized. My fingertips lightly slid across the touchpad, clicking open a photo. It was the original manuscript of Fan Gay. The edges of the paper were yellowed, and the date written in the lower right corner was clearly visible, 3 years ago. In the photo, my hands were still perfectly intact on the piano keys. That's enough, I murmured softly, dragging the photo into the email attachment field. I added a few audio clips, conversations that the home surveillance system accidentally recorded when Jibota was rummaging through my sheet music in the Liu villa. Anyway, his hand is crippled. Keeping these pieces is just a waste. Jibota's gentle voice came through the speaker, carrying undisguised greed. I clicked the send button expressionlessly. The email was simultaneously sent to the Wu family, major media outlets, and my legal proxy. Having finished this, I closed the laptop and walked to the window, violently pulling open the curtains. Sunlight flooded in like a torrent, making me squint. My phone vibrated. It was the lawyer's reply. Evidence is sufficient. A lawsuit has been filed with the court. News will be released to the media in 3 hours. I put down my phone and began to pack my luggage. I booked a flight to the south tonight. There's a small city there, famous for piano craftsmanship. Perhaps I can find an artisan to fix my fingers. Besides necessary clothing, my suitcase only holds 2 items. A small cloth bag containing the pieces of the shattered jade pendant, and a worn, yellowing music score. That score was the last gift my grandfather left me. Liu Ruyan stared at the computer screen, her face grim. The financial director stood stiffly before the desk, fine beads of sweat on his forehead. All joint accounts have been unbound? Liu Ruyan's voice was cold as fractured ice. Yes, Mrs. Liu. The financial director handed over a document. No, Mr. Yi completed all the asset division procedures yesterday. Liao Ruyan snatched the document, her eyes scanning the cold numbers and clauses. On the signature line of the last page, my handwriting was neatly and glaringly present, without a trace of hesitation. And this. The financial director carefully placed another notarized document on the desk. Mr. Ye transferred all of his shares in the Liu Group to the young miss. The notarization is complete. Liao Ruyan's knuckles turned white. The paper crinkled under the pressure of her grip. She suddenly remembered something, abruptly stood up, and rushed home. When Liao Ruyan burst into the villa garden, the gardener was squatting by the white rose bush, staring blankly. The blooming flowers had been pulled out by the roots, leaving only ugly patches of bare earth. Who did this? Liao Ruyan's voice startled the gardener into a tremor. It was Mr. Yi, the gardener stammered. A little while ago, he personally dug up all the white roses he had planted for himself. Liu Ruyan felt like she had been punched hard in the chest. She mechanically took out her phone and called the private detective. "Have you found him?" she demanded. "Not yet." The voice on the other end hesitated. "Mr. Ye is very careful. He's only using cash, and his hotel registration is under a false name. However, we found that he contacted several media outlets." Liu Ruyan frowned. "What media?" The sound of rustling paper came from the phone, mostly entertainment and music magazines. It seems to be related to the song Mr. G won the award with. Before the sentence was finished, a news notification popped up on Liu Ruyan's computer. Shocking! Newly crowned pianist Jiboda's award-winning work suspected of plagiarism. Original creator is Liu Group's Mr. Ye? The accompanying image was the comparison chart I provided of the Fan Gi manuscript and Jiboda's award-winning score, showing a similarity rate of up to 90%. Liu Ruyan's temples throbbed. Just then, the butler ran in a panic. "Madam, the young miss is missing. The surveillance shows she left the villa alone in a taxi. She previously installed a tracker on Mr. Yi's phone. She seems to know where he is." As raindrops began to pelt the window glass, I had just finished organizing my luggage. The forecast predicted a heavy storm tonight. I hoped my flight wouldn't be delayed. The doorbell suddenly rang. My body stiffened. Only Lawyer Lin knew my room number, and we were scheduled to meet in 2 hours. Through the peephole, I saw an unexpected figure. Duo stood outside the door, soaked to the bone, her small face streaked with a mix of rain and tears. She was tightly clutching a teddy bear, the one I gave her last year for her birthday. My finger hovered over the doorknob, trembling slightly. Outside. Duo began pressing the doorbell again, crying out in a choked voice, "Dad, I know you're inside. Please, open the door." I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and slowly stepped back. The doorbell and crying continued for nearly 10 minutes, finally turning into desperate pounding. "Dad, I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong." Duo's voice was hoarse. "Mom and I shouldn't have treated you like that. Please give me a chance." I leaned against the wall next to the door, my nails digging deep into my palm. I could not relent. I could not repeat the same mistakes. After an unknown amount of time, the outside finally fell silent. I looked through the peephole again. Duo was curled up outside my door like an abandoned puppy. Her school uniform was completely drenched, and the teddy bear lay dirty beside her. My tears finally fell, but I still did not open the door. Another half hour passed. The elevator dinged, followed by Liu Ruyan's anxious shouting, "Duo!" Through the peephole, I saw Liu Ruyan scoop up Duo, who had passed out. On her face was a panic I had never seen before. Her gaze suddenly focused on the door, as if she could see through the thick wood and right into my eyes. "Yefen." Her voice was completely hoarse. "I know you can hear me. We're sorry. We were insecure, so we kept testing your love over and over again. Jiboda was hired by us. We don't love him at all. We hired him to deliberately put on an act for you. We were wrong. We love you. Please, open the door, okay?" I bit my lip hard until I tasted blood. Liu Ruyan stood outside the door for a long time. Finally, she left with a single sentence. "You need to calm down first. I'll take the child to the hospital and come back for you later." She carried Duo away. In the Liu Villa's medical room, the family doctor hung up an IV drip for Duo. She just caught a cold and has a fever. A few days of rest and she'll be fine, the doctor told Liu Ruyan. But the child is very emotional. It's best not to provoke her. Liu Ruyan nodded. After the doctor left, she sat by her daughter's bed, looking at the small face, so similar to her own, flushed with fever. Mom. Duo suddenly opened her eyes, her voice weak but unusually clear. You lied to me. Liu Ruyan froze. What? You said Dad would never leave us. Duo's tears flowed down her temples into her hairline. You said that as long as we kept testing him, he would love us more and more. Liu Ruyan's throat tightened. She couldn't say a word. Now he doesn't want us. Duo's voice suddenly rose, with the sharp pitch unique to children. It's all your fault. The door to the medical room was suddenly pushed open. The old butler poked his head in anxiously. Madam, there's a problem at the company. Liu Yan's eyes instantly turned cold. She took one last look at her daughter and strode out. She had to deal with the company matter first, but she never expected that in that brief moment, I would ditch the tracker Duo had installed on my phone, leave the city, and vanish without a trace. 3 days later, Liu Ruyan had activated her entire network, even contacting several old friends who preferred to stay out of the public eye. But she still couldn't find a trace of me. I had evaporated like a drop of water in the city where I had lived for 10 years. The phone rang abruptly. Liu Ruyan practically lunged for the desk. Did you find him? She demanded immediately. Mrs. Liu, it's the kindergarten. The assistant's voice was hesitant. The young miss is having some trouble at school. When Liu Ruyan arrived at the kindergarten, she could hear Duo's heart-wrenching crying from a distance. The sound was like a dull blade, scraping her eardrums over and over. In the classroom, 5-year-old Duo was curled up in a corner, her small face covered in tear stains. Her expensive customized school uniform crumpled around her. Several teachers stood around helplessly. At the other end of the classroom, a few children were pointing and whispering about Duo. What's going on? Liu Ruyan strode into the classroom, the meaning in her voice making the room temperature seem to drop several degrees. The class teacher nervously greeted her. During music class today, when we sang My Good Daddy, Duo suddenly started shouting that her dad didn't want her anymore. Duo suddenly looked up, sparks of anger flying from her red eyes. Mom, tell them it's not like that. Dad is just temporarily mad. Liu Ruyan frowned. She crouched down, trying to hug her daughter, but Duo fiercely pushed her away. Say it! Duo's voice was shrill and strained. Say that Dad will never leave us. The classroom was eerily silent. The children who were whispering were quickly pulled away by their parents, and the teachers discreetly backed out. Liu Ruyan knelt on one knee on the floor. Her expensive suit trousers touched the dust, but she didn't notice. We will find Daddy. She attempted to sound absolutely certain, but she couldn't even convince herself. Duo suddenly pounced, her small fists raining down on her chest. It's all your fault. You were the one who wanted to test Dad. Now he doesn't want us. He hates us. Liu Ruyan let her daughter lash out until the small hands were exhausted and hung limply. She pulled Duo into her embrace. The girl sobbed into her shoulder, the warm tears soaking her shirt. Let's go home, Liu Ruyan said softly, picking up her daughter and walking out. In the corridor, she vaguely heard a parent whispering, I heard Mr. Yi divorced her. Now he doesn't even want the child. Liu Ruyan's eyes instantly narrowed, frightening the speaker into immediate silence. She carried Duo and strode away, her back rigid as an iron plate. Half an hour later, at the Liu Villa, Jiboda stood at the entrance, leaning on an umbrella. After the exposure of his plagiarism, his reputation had plummeted. With no other recourse, he had come once again to seek Liu Ruyan's help. He trembled as he rang the doorbell. When the servant opened the door, he immediately forced a smile. Mrs. Liu, I heard Duo was unwell at school. He handed the butler a carefully prepared gift box of toys, his voice full of concern. I came specifically to see her. Liu Ruyan stood on the stairs, looking down at him coldly. "Get out." The smile on Jibota's face froze. "Ah, I just wanted to help. I don't care how you got in." "Get out immediately." Liu Ruyan's voice was frighteningly calm. "I don't need you anymore, do you understand?" Jibota's face turned ashen. He involuntarily took a step back. He had never seen that look in Liu Ruyan's eyes before, as if she were looking at a corpse. "I just thought since Mr. Yi left, so—" His voice began to shake. "Shut up!" Liu Ruyan's voice was very soft, yet it sent a chilling coldness through Jibota. "From now on, if you dare to mention his name again, I will make sure you don't see tomorrow's sun. Understand?" Jibota nodded frantically, his shoe catching on the threshold, nearly making him fall. He stumbled toward his car, his heart pounding hard enough to burst out of his chest. Late into the night at the Liu Villa, Liu Ruyan stood outside the children's room, watching Duo, who had finally fallen asleep. Even in her sleep, the girl was restless, her small face still tear-stained, clutching the dirty teddy bear tightly. Liu Ruyan gently closed the door and walked to the study. On the desk, the custody lawyer's report was still spread out. Beside it were all the reports she had commissioned to trace my whereabouts, all useless information. She pulled open a drawer and took out an album. It was filled with my photos from the age of 18 when I first arrived at the Liu family to the family gathering last year. Her fingertips lightly brushed over those smiling faces. She suddenly realized that in most of the photos I was smiling alone, while she was always standing far away, expressionless. A drop of water fell onto the album. Liu Ruyan froze for a moment before realizing it was her own tear. Outside the window, a flash of lightning split the night sky, illuminating her pale face. Thunder rumbled. Meanwhile, hundreds of kilometers away from the Liu Villa, in another city, piano music flowed from a recording studio. I wore headphones, my fingers precisely adjusting parameters on the mixing console. After this period of treatment, my formerly bandaged wrist was now moving freely. Only close inspection revealed the fine scars. Third section, again. "Make the violin part a little softer," I said into the microphone. My voice traveled through the glass to the band. The sound engineer handed me a hot cup of tea, unable to hide his admiration. "Mr. Yi, your ears are truly incredible. I couldn't even hear the issue in that part." I smiled, taking the cup. The scar on my ring finger was so faded it was barely visible. The studio's logo, Fanji Music, reflected the fragmented light on the cup. This was the studio I founded with the funds from a secret investment I made 5 years ago. I kept this money in an anonymous account, and Liu Ruyan never knew about it. My assistant hurried in. "Mr. Ye, the interview for Musician Magazine is scheduled for 3 p.m. They want to focus on your new composition process. Tell them they can discuss the composition, but not my private life," I interrupted, unconsciously rubbing the scar on my inner wrist. The assistant hesitated, "But the editor-in-chief said readers are very concerned about you and the Liu family." My eyes instantly went cold. "Then cancel the interview." No. They promised to only talk about the music." The assistant quickly corrected himself, secretly regretting his slip-up. This seemingly gentle boss was uncompromising on matters of principle. Everyone in the studio knew which topics were strictly off-limits. The afternoon interview went smoothly, as anticipated, until the end. The female reporter, wearing wire-rimmed glasses, suddenly asked, "Mr. Yi, I heard you were once a concert pianist. Why did you transition to behind-the-scenes composition?" The recording studio instantly fell silent. I looked at the Mont Blanc pen dangling from the reporter's chest. Liu Ruyan had once given me a similar limited edition pen. "Due to an accident," I replied calmly, slowly rolling up my shirt sleeve to expose the hideous scar on my wrist. My wrist was injured, and I missed the optimal window for treatment. The reporter gasped, and the camera immediately zoomed in on the scar. I didn't hide it. Instead, I turned my wrist toward the lens. A comminuted fracture. My voice was very soft, yet it resonated clearly in the recording studio. The doctor said if I had the surgery 2 hours earlier, I could have recovered 80% function. But at the time, someone decided to save another patient with minor injuries first. The interview video was posted that evening at 8 p.m. By 9:10 p.m., it had already soared to the top of the trending topics. The headline was shocking. Genius pianist Yi Fan exposes injury insider. Liu Group CEO delayed treatment to save lover. The Liu Group public relations department was in chaos. The phone in the CEO's office rang nonstop. Liu Ruyan stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows. On her phone screen was a close-up of my interview, my calm expression as I displayed the scar. The unfamiliarity made her heart grow cold. This was not the me she remembered. The me who would be overjoyed by a single word from her. Who would shed tears over a single look from Duo Duo. Now I stood before the camera like an ice sculpture, even my anger controlled. "Mrs. Liu, the stock price has dropped by 7 points," the financial director's voice came over the phone. "The board of directors is demanding an emergency statement." Liu Ruyan hung up and clicked on another relentlessly flashing message group. A recording was being widely circulated in the group. Ji Boda at a party, bragging about how he had managed the Liu mother and daughter's testing. At the end of the recording, he said smugly, "Who cares about Fangay? Mr. Ye's entire life is my stepping stone." Her eyes instantly chilled. She made a call to teach Jiboda a lesson. Late that night, Jiboda left his apartment, still anxious about how to eliminate the negative impact of his plagiarism. He completely failed to notice a black van quietly following him. The screech of brakes cut through the night, followed by a loud bang. Passers-by gathered in panic, seeing a car skewed and crashed into a road barrier, all its airbags deployed. Jiboda lay over the steering wheel, his face covered in blood. The next morning, Liu Ruyan was presiding over a crisis management meeting. The secretary rushed in and whispered a few words. She announced a recess without changing her expression. Back in her office, she allowed herself a cold smile. "Is it taken care of?" "Yes, Mrs. Liu," the woman in black said in a low voice. "The car was tampered with, but it won't be fatal. It's just a lesson for him." The hospital is also briefed. He won't remember the details. Liu Ruyan nodded. Her gaze fell on the latest issue of Finance Weekly on her desk. The cover was a report on Fangyi Music Studio. The accompanying photo showed me instructing a young musician, my profile looking exceptionally tall and resolute in the light. She had found me, but I seemed to no longer belong to her. Rainwater snaked down the recording studio's glass window. I stood at the mixing console, my fingers lightly tapping the desktop in rhythm with the melody in my headphones. I wore a simple dark suit, the cuffs rolled up to reveal the lines of my wrist. Suddenly, an urgent knock interrupted my work. "Mr. Yi, there's a child at the front desk." The assistant pushed the door open, his expression complex. "She says she's your daughter." My fingers froze midair. I slowly took off my headphones. Through the half-open door, I saw Duo Duo standing at the front desk, soaked to the bone. Her school uniform trousers were stained with mud, and she tightly clutched a soggy exercise book. "Let her in." My voice was calm, devoid of any discernible emotion. Duo Duo practically rushed into the recording room. Her small figure looked especially frail amidst the expensive equipment. She looked up, rain and tears mixing as they streamed down her face. "Dad, I finally found you! I got a perfect score on my test. Look!" She tremblingly flipped open the exercise book. The handwriting inside was blurred by the water, but the bright red 100 was still clearly visible. I remembered a promise I had once made. If Duo Duo got a perfect score, I would take her to Disneyland. I took the exercise book, my expression cold. "Why aren't you at school?" "I ran away!" Duo Duo suddenly knelt down, her small hands tightly gripping my coat. "Dad, please come back. I promise Mom and I won't bully you anymore. I'll only listen to you from now on." The recording room was frighteningly silent. Only the rain drumming against the window could be heard. I crouched down to look my daughter in the eye, but I did not help her up. "Duo Duo, do you know why I had to leave?" Duo Duo shook her head in panic, tears falling profusely. "Because Mom and I were bad to you? Because we loved you but still bullied you? But we really know we were wrong." "No," my voice was very soft. "You still haven't realized your mistake." I took a stack of photos from a drawer and spread them on the floor. All the secretly taken images from the Liu family study, and the photo of the glass jar where Duo Duo collected my hair. A healthy child does not collect their father's hair. A normal wife does not monitor her husband's every move. I pointed outside. The school roof was vaguely visible through the mist. There's a parent-child activity there today. I'll take you to see what real love is. The school activity room was filled with laughter and cheers. Duo and I stood in the corner, watching parents lift their children high and hearing the unreserved praise and encouragement. "Dad, that little boy fell down," Duo whispered suddenly. I watched a little 4-year-old boy sitting on the ground not far away. His father immediately crouched down but didn't rush to help him up. "Sweetheart, can you stand up yourself? Mommy is waiting for you here." The little boy smiled, climbed up on his own, and dove into his mother's open embrace. Duo's eyes were wide. Her small hand unconsciously tightened its grip on my finger. Doesn't his mom worry that he'll run away? "True love is not confinement, it is trust," I said. "Like an overwound spring, if you tighten it too much, it will break." Duo nodded, half understanding, yet her eyes became increasingly lost. Just then, the door to the activity room was violently pushed open. Liu Ruyan burst in, bringing a chill with her. She was wearing a well-tailored, elegant dress, but her face was frighteningly cold. Duo! Her roar instantly silenced the entire room. Several children were startled and hid in their parents' arms. Liu Ruyan strode over and grabbed Duo's wrist. "Who gave you permission to skip school?" Duo staggered from the tug, but suddenly struggled. "I'm not going back. I want to be with Daddy." I let go of my daughter, choosing to ignore Liu Ruyan and Duo's fervent gaze, and turned to leave. In the car that encircled the city, Duo huddled in the corner, sobbing softly. Liu Ruyan recalled my cold eyes from just now, and irritably tugged at her tie. "What is it?" The lawyer's voice on the phone was filled with anxiety. "Mrs. Liu, this is bad. The Lin Group just released news that they have evidence of our illegal surveillance. The board is demanding an emergency meeting." Liu Ruyan's knuckles were white with strain. 3 days later, the entertainment industry exploded. Yefan posted an article accusing his ex-wife of emotional abuse. The article detailed Liu Ruyan's years of pathological control over me. The entire internet was in an uproar. Late that night, I was working late at the studio. I was wearing comfortable, casual clothes and organizing music scores. When I turned off the lights and prepared to leave, a strong smell of alcohol assaulted me. "Yefan!" Liu Ruyan leaned against the doorframe, her long hair disheveled, her eyes bloodshot. "Are you happy now?" "I'm asking you to leave," I said. "I asked you, are you happy now?" Liu Ruyan suddenly exploded, punching the wall. My expression remained unchanged. "I am merely letting the truth be known." Liu Ruyan suddenly laughed, a sound more hideous than weeping. "What do I have to do for you to come back?" She stumbled forward, trying to grab my hand. "What do you want? My life?" I took a step back, avoiding her touch. "Only on the day I die." My voice was as soft as a sigh. "After all, only the dead will forever belong to you, won't they?" Liu Ruyan seemed stunned by the words. As she left, she took one last look at me, standing in the light. Rain lashed against the windows of the black sedan. I slowly regained consciousness in the back seat. A dull throbbing came from the back of my head. My wrists were chafed and bleeding from rough ropes. I squinted, discerning the fleeting scenery outside the rain-streaked window. They were heading up the winding mountain road to the suburbs. "Awake?" Liu Ruyan's voice came from the front seat, laced with a morbid tenderness. "Go back to sleep. We're almost there." I remained silent, subtly flexing my bound ankles. The car rounded a sharp bend and a familiar scene flashed by. This was the road to the Liu family's old estate, the villa that had been empty for years, nestled deep in the mountain's dense woods. 3 hours later, I was locked in a second-floor bedroom. Thick curtains blocked all light. Only a sliver of light penetrated beneath the door crack. The lock turned. Liu Ruyan walked in, carrying a tray of food. She had changed her clothes. Her long hair was neatly combed and flowing, as if this were not a kidnapping but some formal date. "Eat something." She placed the tray by the bedside and reached out to touch my face, but I turned my head to avoid her. Liu Ruyan's hand froze midair, her eyes darkening. "Must you be this way? We can clearly start over." Illegal detention is a felony. My voice was hoarse from dehydration. Let me go now, and I can pretend nothing happened. Let you go? Liu Ruyan suddenly burst into laughter, the sound echoing in the empty bedroom. Let you go and live freely abroad? She violently gripped my chin. Listen to me. You can only belong to me. This life is mine. Then you will only get a corpse, I said calmly, meeting her crazed eyes. Liu Ruyan's eyes went cold. She staggered back 2 steps. Then we'll die together. I counted the time until the outside was completely silent. I laboriously crawled to the window, pulling aside a corner of the curtain with my teeth. Outside was a steep cliff, with rain creating rivers on the glass. I don't know how long passed. I was too weak to stand. I refused all food and water. My lips were cracked and bleeding. A muffled argument came from outside the door. A childish voice was unusually clear. Mom, are you crazy? Daddy will die. Shut up. He doesn't want you and you're still defending him. You were the one who wanted to test him. You're the one who caused his injury. I hate you. A sound of tearing and a heavy thud followed. I struggled to crawl toward the door, hearing Duoduo's suppressed fobs. I'm calling the police. I'm going to save Daddy. You dare? Liu Ruyan's roar rang out. My heart nearly stopped. I used all my strength to ram the bedside table. The sound of the vase shattering on the floor finally drew attention. The door was violently pushed open. Duoduo's small figure rushed in. The girl's left cheek was bruised and swollen, but her eyes widened the moment she saw me. Daddy! Duoduo tremblingly pulled out her phone. I secretly called the police. They'll be here soon. Liu Ruyan stood at the doorway, her face ashen as a corpse. Siren sounds grew from distant to near, but she made no move to escape, only staring fixedly at me. Why? Why can't you just love me? I did not answer. Liu Ruyan offered no resistance, calmly extending her hands to be handcuffed. When the police asked if I wished to press charges, Liu Ruyan looked back at me, her gaze so unsettling that even the officer took half a step back. I slowly nodded. I will hire the best lawyer. Liu Ruyan saw the indifference in my eyes, and her face collapsed. Duoduo was sent to the Children's Welfare Institute. As we parted, she desperately clung to my coat, sobbing to the point of near suffocation. I crouched down and whispered something in her ear. Only then did the girl slowly calm down and get into the car with the social worker. A month later, I stood in the VIP lounge of the international airport. I wore a crisp suit, my posture straight. Mr. Yi, could I please ask for your autograph? A flight attendant carefully handed over a notebook. My brother is your admirer. I smiled and signed my name. Just then, the lounge television began to broadcast the morning news. Former Liu Group CEO, Liu Ruyan, sentenced today in illegal detention case, 3 years imprisonment. As the plane soared into the clouds, I opened the music score I carried. Tucked inside the lining was a drawing Duoduo had made at the Welfare Institute. It showed 3 stick figures holding hands, but the leftmost one had been almost completely erased by an eraser. 2 years later, at the Vienna Musikverein, I bowed to the thunderous applause in a simple black suit. I had just won the International Composition Grand Prix, the first Chinese male to receive the honor. In the backstage interview, a reporter cautiously asked, Mr. Yi, your award-winning piece, Cocoon, was its inspiration based on a true experience? Do you still hate the person who hurt you? Under the flashbulbs, my smile was calm and clear. Hate is another form of caring, and I learned to let go a long time ago. I gently touched the scar on my wrist. These scars are now just a source for my creation, nothing more. Meanwhile, in the exercise yard of a domestic prison, an international newspaper was being passed among the inmates. The front page featured a photo of me winning the award. Liu Ruyan snatched the paper, staring fixedly at the radiant man in the photo. Give it back! Other inmates came forward. The newspaper was ripped in half. Liu Ruyan clutched the torn fragment and returned to her cell, using the sharp paper edge to carve bloody lines on her arm, repeatedly muttering, "He was mine. He was mine." It was late autumn in Vienna. Golden leaves covered the cobblestones of the music academy. I stood by the window of the piano room, watching the ginkgo leaves drift outside, my right hand unconsciously rubbing the scar on my left wrist. I wore a well-fitted casual suit, my demeanor composed. "Excuse me." A gentle female voice came from the doorway. I turned and saw an elegant Asian woman standing there. She held a stack of music scores in her left hand. Her right arm hung unnaturally at her side. She was wearing a simple knitted dress. "Shen Yuchu." She introduced herself with a slight bow. "I'm the Academy's new visiting professor. I heard a composer from China was here for an exchange and wanted to say hello." I nodded politely in greeting. I knew the name, Shen Yuchu. After a car accident 3 years ago, she lost the dexterity in her right hand, but created a miracle by performing only with her left hand. "Your harmony is very interesting." Shen Yuchu walked to the piano and opened the score I had just finished with one hand. However, the modulation here could be smoother. Her left hand danced across the keys, playing a fluid melody. I was surprised to find that with only her left hand, she could play complex notes that usually required both hands. "How did you adapt to it?" I asked. Shen Yuchu smiled, and the empty sleeve of her right jacket sleeve swayed slightly. "I spent 2 years relearning after the accident. Sometimes, limitation can inspire new possibilities." Her gaze fell on the scar on my wrist, but quickly moved away politely. "Your hand," Shen Yuchu suddenly began. "Was it an injury?" I subconsciously covered my wrist. Shen Yuchu didn't press the question, simply resting her left hand on the keys. "Want to try? I can teach you a few left-hand practice techniques." I hesitantly extended my left hand. As my fingertips touched the keys, Shen Yuchu's hand gently rested on mine, guiding my fingers to the correct position. "Like this, use your thumb and pinky to control the octave." Her palm was warm and dry, with calluses from years of practice. I suddenly recalled that Liu Ruyan's hands were always cold, with a strength that controlled everything. "You're distracted." Shen Yuchu's voice pulled me back to reality. "Sorry." I withdrew my hand. "I'm not used to physical contact with people." Shen Yuchu nodded knowingly. "Music is the best way to communicate." She pulled a sheet of manuscript paper from her stack of scores. "This is an etude I adapted. It's for you. If you're interested, I'm free Wednesday afternoons." I took the score. The dense notes on the paper showed the owner's dedication. "Thank you," I heard myself say. "I'll consider it." After Shen Yuchu left, I stayed alone in the piano room until late into the night. I tried playing the simple melody using the method she taught me. It was clumsy, but more fluid than I expected. The next day's downpour came suddenly. I was standing at the academy entrance, hesitating as I hadn't brought an umbrella, when a black umbrella was extended toward me. "I'm going your way." Shen Yuchu appeared beside me unnoticed. She held the umbrella, her skirt gently swaying in the rain. "I don't live far from you." Under one umbrella in the rain, we walked through Vienna's ancient streets. Shen Yuchu deliberately slowed her pace, allowing me to keep up with her rhythm. "Why did you come to Vienna?" she asked suddenly. I looked at the city's blurred outline in the rain. "Because no one knew me here." "Now you do," Shen Yuchu's voice was smiling. "An audience, a friend." The following Wednesday afternoons became a fixed music time. Shen Yuchu taught me left-hand playing techniques, and I helped her revise her new compositions. We discovered our aesthetic tastes were astonishingly similar, often discussing the modification of a single note until late into the night. A month later, at the Academy's concert, Shen Yuchu invited me to perform with her. When we bowed during the curtain call, the applause was like thunder. Shen Yuchu suddenly turned to me and said, in a voice only I could hear, "See? I told you music wouldn't abandon anyone." Looking at the flashing lights and smiling faces of the audience, I felt for the first time that those old wounds were slowly healing. At the celebration after the concert, Shen Yuchu was surrounded by musicians, but I stood alone in the corner, no longer feeling lonely. "What are you thinking, hiding here?" Shen Yuchu approached me unnoticed, offering me a glass of juice. "I'm thinking," I took the glass. "Maybe incompleteness is truly another beginning." Shen Yuchu's gaze softened. "Then, would you like to create with this incomplete pianist?" "I have a new project." The night breeze blew, carrying the sound of an accordion from a distant cafe. I found myself already looking forward to the next Wednesday afternoon. Rain washed the prison's iron gate. When Liu Ruyan walked out, carrying a thin luggage bag, no one was there to meet her. 5 years had etched deep lines onto her face. At just over 30, her temples were already flecked with white. She stood beneath the bus stop, looking at the news page she had just searched on her phone. My photo shone brightly on the screen. The headline read, "Chinese-American music producer Yi Fan wins Grammy for Best Classical Composition." In the photo, I stood on the podium, my figure erect in a dark gray suit, a uniquely shaped ring on my left ring finger. Liu Ruyan zoomed in on the picture, discovering the ring was shaped like a small musical note. "Ma'am, are you getting on or not?" the bus driver impatiently urged. Liu Ruyan put away her phone. As the bus drove through the city center, she saw that the soaring Liao Group building had a new sign. Her distorted reflection stared back from the glass curtain wall. Late that night, Liu Ruyan scrolled through all the news alerts she had collected about me over the 5 years. I was teaching at the Vienna Music Academy, serving as a UNESCO Goodwill Ambassador for children's music education, and had purchased a villa in Salzburg last year. Every piece of news was a knife twisting in her heart. Liu Ruyan's knuckles were white. My Yefen, the Yefen who only had eyes for her, now belonged to the whole world. 3 days later, she stood in the last row of the Vienna Musikverein. My new work, Emergence, was having its premiere. I stood beside the conductor's podium, my white suit seeming like condensed moonlight. When the last note fell, the entire audience rose in applause. An elegant woman walked onto the stage from the orchestra, naturally draping her arm over my shoulder, whispering something that made me chuckle. The edges of Liu Ruyan's vision turned blood red. The woman wore a musical note ring, identical to mine on her left ring finger, while her right arm hung stiffly at her side. Liu Ruyan recognized her, the pianist Shen Yuchu, who the media reported had been disabled in a car accident but created a miracle. At the reception after the performance, Liu Ruyan mingled among the waiters, watching me chat and laugh with musicians from various countries, exuding a radiance she had never witnessed. "Mr. Ye, what was the inspiration for your new piece?" a reporter asked. I swirled my champagne glass, my gaze sweeping over the crowd, pausing briefly in the corner where Liu Ruyan was hiding, before moving away casually. "It comes from all the moments of breakage and rebuilding in my life." Shen Yuchu appeared beside me seamlessly, naturally taking the champagne glass from my hand. "It's time for your medication. The doctor said you shouldn't drink too much." Liu Ruyan watched Shen Yuchu drape a jacket over me, her slender fingers lingering on my shoulder for a moment. That should have been her position, her privilege. The acidic bile in her stomach almost surged into her throat. She stumbled out of the banquet hall, vomiting violently in the restroom. Liu Ruyan frantically dialed the phone number she remembered as mine, only to hear the dial tone for an invalid number. At 3 a.m., drunk, she stumbled into an internet cafe and typed "Shen Yuchu Ye Fan" into the search bar. The screen immediately flashed countless reports. Piano prodigy Shen Yuchu and composer Yi Fan collaborate again. Musical soulmates Shen Yuchu and Yi Fan. Shen Yuchu interview. Yi Fan arranged a left-hand version of my music. She gave me a second life. Liu Ruyan slammed her fist onto the screen. Blood immediately seeped out. At the same time, at a villa on the outskirts of Vienna, I was discussing a new score with Shen Yuchu in the piano room. The modulation here is handled very cleverly. Shen Yuchu demonstrated with her left hand on the keys. However, if you add a bit of vibrato, I smiled and nodded, making a note on the score. Our matching rings glowed under the light. A shadow flashed past the window. Liu Ruyan stood in the garden's darkness, watching the warm scene through the window, her nails dug deeply into her palm. She had expected to be furious, to go mad, but what filled her chest now was an unprecedented emptiness. The me who cried for her, laughed for her, and endured all harm for her had completely vanished. The current me had stars and the sea in my eyes, but only she was absent. Late at night, I was adjusting the mixing for a new track in the studio. The phone suddenly rang. The screen displayed Social Welfare Bureau. I hesitated for 2 seconds before answering. "Mr. Yi, I apologize for disturbing you." the formal voice of the woman on the other end said politely. It's about Duo. She has been refusing to eat since she was adopted and is currently hospitalized for treatment. The psychiatrist suggests, I have already signed the document relinquishing guardianship, I interrupted, my fingers unconsciously rubbing the scar on my wrist. Please follow the standard procedure. I hung up, staring at the musical notes on the computer screen, which now seemed to distort into Duo's crying face. My finger hovered above the keyboard, unable to press down. Need help? Shen Yuchu's voice came from the doorway. I managed to smile. I'm fine, just another call from the Social Welfare Bureau. Shen Yuchu placed a coffee on the table, her gaze sweeping over my taut lips. Still about the child? I picked up the coffee, the steam helping to conceal my slightly red eyes. She can't adapt to the new adoption family and tried to starve herself. But it's no longer my responsibility. Shen Yuchu didn't immediately respond. She walked to the window, looking at the city's blurred outline in the rain. I contacted a child psychologist in Zurich. She'll go to the Welfare Institute tomorrow to check on the situation. I looked up sharply. It's not for you. Shen Yuchu turned, a gentle curve at the corner of her mouth. The foundation is currently expanding its children's music therapy project. This is a good case study. I knew she was lying. That psychologist was one of Europe's most renowned trauma therapists for children, far beyond what the foundation could afford. But I said nothing, only lightly squeezed Shen Yuchu's left hand, feeling the rough calluses in her palm. Meanwhile, at an upscale rehabilitation center, Jiboda was adjusting the position of his neck brace in the mirror. 5 years after the accident that left him half paralyzed, he miraculously survived. The man in the mirror was no longer the once radiant pianist. Sunken cheeks and cloudy eyes made him look like an old man nearing death. Mrs. Liu, I've heard so much about you. Jiboda flashed a twisted smile at the woman who had just entered. Liu Rian was thinner than she had been 5 years ago. Prison life had carved deep lines around her eyes, but the obsession in those eyes remained undiminished. You said you had a way for me to see Yefen. Liu Ruyan cut straight to the chase, her voice as raspy as sandpaper. What are your conditions? Jiboda used his functioning right hand to push a photo across the table. The photo showed Shen Yuchu and me embracing after the concert. The musical note rings on both our ring fingers were especially glaring under the flash. The glamorous appearance of the people in the photo deeply stung Jiboda's eyes. I want them to be like me, Jiboda said through gritted teeth. Just like me. Liu Ruyan stared at the photo, her eyes sinister. A dress. Jiboda revealed a triumphant smile, slowly spitting out a house number. 3 nights later, the fire alarm suddenly went off at my studio. Shen Yuchu was in the next piano room revising a score and immediately rushed out when she heard the alarm. Thick smoke was already seeping from the studio door cracks. Fire snakes licked at the curtains, staining the entire space orange-red. Yafan! Shen Yuchu yelled, but the thick smoke made her cough violently. I'm here! My voice came from the storage room. The original scores are still inside! Shen Yuchu didn't hesitate, tearing off her jacket to cover her mouth and nose, and charging into the fire. The storage room door had been warped by the heat. She brutally rammed it with her shoulder, seeing me frantically trying to save the yellowing manuscripts on the shelves. Those were the original scores of all my compositions over the years, including the evening song that Jiboda had plagiarized. Hurry up! Shen Yuchu grabbed me, using her other hand to snatch the remaining scores from the shelf. Just as we were about to rush out the door, a burning beam suddenly snapped and crashed toward my head. Shen Yuchu violently pushed me away, but the beam struck her back. Flames instantly engulfed her right arm. The smell of burning flesh permeated the air. Shen Yuchu! I screamed, lunging forward, using my jacket to beat out the flames on her body. The sound of fire engine sirens grew closer, but my world was reduced to Shen Yuchu's face, contorted in pain, and the hand, the one that had been charred black to protect my score. The lights in the hospital corridor were blindingly white. I sat on a bench outside the operating room, my hands stained with dried blood and fire extinguisher powder. The police had taken a statement. Surveillance showed someone intentionally set the fire, but the suspect wore a mask and hat and was hard to identify. The operating light finally went out. The chief surgeon walked out, his expression serious. 30% of the body is burned, mainly the right arm and back. Although the left hand was saved, the nerve damage is severe. I'm afraid. My ears buzzed. I didn't hear a word of what the doctor said next. When Shen Yuchu was wheeled out, I almost didn't recognize the person wrapped entirely in bandages. The beeping of the monitor in the room sounded like a cruel countdown. I gently held Shen Yuchu's only unwrapped fingertip, still bearing the calluses from playing. Why? My voice was choked. Those scores? Shen Yuchu slightly opened her eyes, a smile pulling at her lips, which were pale from pain. Not just for the scores. My tears finally broke free. I leaned down, my forehead resting gently on Shen Yuchu's shoulder. Outside the window, Liu Ruyan stood in the shadow of the trees, watching the scene through the hospital window. A proximity alert suddenly sounded nearby. Liu Ruyan turned and left, alerted. As she passed a trash can, she hesitated, but ultimately stuffed the charred musical score from that night into her pocket. In the hospital corridor, I stood by the window. My phone screen lit up with an unfamiliar number. I hesitated for 2 seconds before answering. Daddy. Duo's deliberately lowered voice came from the other end. I saw the news. Are you okay? My fingers tightened involuntarily, my nails digging into my palm. Through the window of the room, I could see Shen Yuchu's sleeping profile, her bandaged chest faintly rising and falling. I'm fine. My voice was flat, almost cold. You shouldn't have called this number. I'm very worried. The child's voice was tearful. Mom, he's listening. Stop, I interrupted him, my gaze falling on the scar on my wrist. Your adoptive parents are good people. Forget the past and live well. Without waiting for a response, I decisively hung up and blocked the number. As I turned, I saw Shen Yuchu was awake, watching me with her gentle eyes. Perhaps you could have been kinder to him. Shen Yuchu's voice was hoarse from smoke inhalation damage. I walked to the bedside and gently held her unburned left hand. Kindness will only allow him to continue holding on to fantasies, I said, leaning down to kiss her fingertips. Some relationships must be severed completely. 3 days later, the news conference room at the Vienna Music Hall was packed. I walked onto the stage in an all-black suit, the musical note ring on my left ring finger gleaming under the flashbulbs. Thank you all for coming. My voice was clear and calm. As Ms. Shen Yuchu continues to battle her injuries, I feel compelled to speak out. I clicked the remote control. The screen switched to a surveillance video. In the footage, a younger me was practicing the piano in a music room, the camera clearly hidden in a seam of the wall art. This is surveillance installed by Liu Ruyan 10 years ago, without my knowledge, I explained calmly. Similar devices were in every corner of our shared life. A clamor arose among the reporters. The screen continued to show different images. The bedroom, the bathroom, the dressing room, every private space monitored 24 hours a day. The most chilling was a nighttime recording. Liu Ruyan sitting by my bed as I slept, obsessively stroking my hair. I then played a hospital recording, clearly documenting the conversation where Liu Ruyan and Duo chose to save Jibota first over the heavily injured me. When the line, "Save Jibota first," rang out in the quiet venue, someone gasped. Because of that choice, my right hand lost the ability to play forever. I raised my right hand, the scar shocking under the harsh light. And just 3 days ago, the same person deliberately set fire to my studio, causing severe burns to Ms. Shen Yuchu, simply because she could not accept that I had a new life. A commotion suddenly erupted at the back of the venue. A woman in a baseball cap pushed past security and rushed in. Yefan! Liu Ruyan's hysterical scream cut through the air. I did all of this because I love you! You can't do this to me! I stood still, my gaze like an ice blade piercing the woman who had once made my life a living hell. Liu Ruyan frantically surged forward. You're mine! Always mine! The police quickly subdued her. Pinned to the ground, Liu Ruyan continued to shriek, Yefan, look at me! I slowly walked off the podium, stopping 2 meters away from her. I looked down at the woman streaming with tears and snot. There was no hatred in my eyes, only a deep exhaustion. Your love is like sulfuric acid, Liu Ruyan, I said softly. It leaves nothing but scars. With the crisp sound of handcuffs, Liu Ruyan was dragged out of the venue. Her screams echoed down the corridor for a long time, like an eternally off-key evening song. After the press conference, I returned to the hospital. A bouquet of white hyacinths had been placed by Shen Yuchu's bed. The card read, "Get well soon." He was here. I picked up the card. Shen Yuchu nodded. The social worker said the child insisted on seeing me but was refused. He stood outside the door for 3 hours. I placed the card back and walked to the window to close the curtains. "Did the press conference go well?" Shen Yuchu asked. I took off my jacket, revealing a fresh bruise on my left arm, knocked as Liu Ruyan struggled while being dragged away. "Very well, it's over. It's all over." Shen Yuchu used her thumb to trace the musical note ring on my finger. "No, it's just beginning." The first snowflake outside the window drifted down silently. I leaned over and gently embraced Shen Yuchu, carefully avoiding the wounds on her back. Spring arrived quietly. I stood by the window of the piano room at the music academy, looking at the first blooming hyacinth in the courtyard. I wore a simple light gray suit, my posture tall and straight as I gazed outside, my fingertips unconsciously rubbing my cuff. Shen Yuchu's rehabilitation was going very well. "Mr. Yi, you have a package." The teaching assistant gently knocked and handed me a brown paper parcel. There was no sender information on the package. I opened the package. Inside was a handwritten letter and a child's drawing. The drawing showed 3 stick figures standing by a piano. The shortest one was colored gold. "Dear Daddy," Dr. Sophie said writing a letter might be better than calling. "I'm sorry I used to cry and make a fuss. My new mommy and daddy are very nice. They took me to a concert. I'm learning the piano now too, even though I'm not very good. I hope Auntie Shen's hand gets better soon. I really like the metronome she gave me. Love, duo duo." My finger lightly touched the word love. The ink was slightly blurred, as if wet with tears. I put the letter and, drawing back into the envelope, took out a gilded ticket from a drawer, the invitation to Shen Yuchu's piano masterclass next week, and wrote Duo Duo's adoptive parents' address on the envelope, enclosing the ticket without a single word. Meanwhile, at a high-end sanatorium on the outskirts of Zurich, Jiboda was applying hairspray in the mirror. 5 years after his paralysis, his right cheek was still stiff like a mask, but today was a special day. That gossip reporter had agreed to buy the Liu family dirt he possessed for 50,000 euros. "Mr. Ji, it's time for your medication." The nurse pushed the door open, carrying a medicine tray. Jiboda impatiently waved her away. "Leave it. I'll take it later. I have a visitor today, don't disturb me." He adjusted his tie in the mirror. After the nurse left, Jiboda retrieved a brown paper bag from beneath his pillow. Inside was all the dirt he had collected on the Liu family over the years. Evidence of financial fraud, records of commercial bribery, and even a record of an attempted murder case involving Liu Ruyan's father back then. These were enough to destroy the last shred of the Liu Group's reputation, his final leverage for revenge. The doorbell rang. Jiboda laboriously maneuvered his electric wheelchair to the door, but the person standing outside was not the reporter he had scheduled, but a stranger in a white coat. "Hello, Mr. Ji." The woman smiled and showed her ID. "I'm the new doctor here to perform your routine checkup." Jiboda warily backed away. No one notified me about a change of doctor. Professor Hans had an urgent matter. The woman pushed the wheelchair back to the bed without waiting for an argument. "Please cooperate with the examination. It will be quick." 20 minutes later, the nurse found Jiboda collapsed by the bed. Pills scattered on the floor. His breathing stopped. The police's preliminary finding was accidental overdose, but the incident report had an inconspicuous note. A small amount of non-self skin tissue was extracted from the deceased's fingernails. However, given Jiboda's history of mental instability and frequent scratching of nurses, the note was ultimately disregarded. 3 days later, Shen Yuchu's piano masterclass was held at the Vienna Music Academy. I sat in the last row, watching the woman on stage whose left hand flew across the keys. She wore a simple white dress, her focused expression captivating under the lights. During the intermission, a staff member quietly approached me. "Mr. Yi, there's a child in the front row who wants to see you. Says she's your..." Following the direction, I saw Duo in a pink dress, standing nervously in the aisle. Compared to our last meeting, she had grown taller, and there was less fear in her eyes, replaced by a slight glow. "Let her enjoy the rest of the class," I said softly. "Bring her backstage afterward." The second half began. Shen Yuchu performed an adapted version of the evening song. After the performance, I met Duo, who had been brought by her adoptive parents, in the backstage corridor. The girl timidly presented a bouquet of white hyacinths. "For Auntie Shen. Wishing her a speedy recovery." I took the bouquet, gently stroking her hair. "How was the playing?" "It was great." Duo's eyes immediately lit up. "Auntie Shen said if I practice hard, I can enter the youth competition next year." Watching her excitement, I felt as if I were seeing my former self, first encountering the piano many years ago. Some passions are, after all, passed on through the blood.